Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Cybersecurity Recruiter Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Vinson Cornejo.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This is exciting.
No, we had a really nice chat last time. And for everyone listening, Vince, you just had to put up with me pushing this back half an hour because we've got some, I'm not complaining, but we've got some very demanding clients that want to hire some people. I shouldn't complain, but you know what it's like? You know what, when you're dealing with end clients, Vince, it's high touch most of the time, but sometimes it gets very high touch.
Yeah. Hey, but being in demand is good. It beats the alternative. So that's great.
No, it does, mate, definitely. I often write like a plan out and it very rarely stuck to.
Yeah, it's like a reference point. And if you get one or two of the things done, you take it as
It is, but you know what I was talking to you about just before we hit record, about having that, when I have that gap in the, for everyone listening, I only recruit in the US, but I do it from Dubai. That gap in the morning is where you actually can get the most work done because people just can't interrupt you. So that is like my hyper productive time. But apart from that, my day is just beautiful, organized chaos, mate.
Yeah, that's well said. Beautifully organized chaos.
So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do you a little intro just for the listeners that don't know you, my friend. I'm looking forward to today. You've had a successful and good career so far. We had a really nice chat last time. It'd be nice to unpack your journey. I'm sure we're going to talk about some AI stuff, which we really got into last time. I was really impressed with some of the things you were telling me. You were definitely helping my self-development and education around that. We'll get into that. But just for the listeners that don't know you, my friends, I started off back in the day at George Washington Uni as a senior master network analyst. You were then involved with networking, and then you were at Logo Technologies for just over 7 years. And then you took the huge leap of founding and starting your own business, Blue Cloak. And you've done that now for over a decade, coming up to not too far off 11 years. And yeah, you're the managing partner and founding partner of Blue Cloak. Welcome to the show, mate.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. It's been a lot of fun. So I don't know where you want to start, but we can dive into whatever piques your interest or whatever you think the listeners want to hear.
Yeah. I think it'd be nice to, I'm going to ask you what a typical day looks like to get started, but just to get the cogs turning, it'd be nice to talk about your business journey as well. It'd be nice to get into what's it actually like. I've gone through this journey myself, but for other listeners, what's it actually like to go from an employee to an employer? How scary is it? What do you know now that you wish you knew back then? Is it really worth it? But we'll start off with the day in the life. What goes down day to day for you then, Vince? What happens on a typical day, Monday to Friday right now?
Yeah, depending upon where we are in the year, we do a lot of offensive cyber testing for the US government. We're a test and evaluation company. So government acquires cyber capabilities and they need a testing arena, if you will. We are that entity that says, okay, we are unbiased. We have no skin in the game with the application or requirements or who's using it. We simply bring all of those people together and we will set up an environment that is conducive to a capability under test, under realistic conditions as much as possible. So that's what we do. And depending upon the year where we're either out in the field or we're in the office getting ready for an event, I'd like to start my day off as much as possible, greeting employees and just talking to everyone, making sure that they're going to start their day off well. Try to do that as much as I can. After that, we'll do a daily stand-up, which is great for communication, just getting everyone situated with where they are, what they need to do that week, problems that they were having, standard stuff that you would do with any company. And I think we do it fairly well. And we're a small organization. If you know something and you can help someone out, then you should jump in and help. And that's what we all try to do. I don't sit in the back corner or in a big office. I sit out in the bullpen with everyone else. I hire people smarter than me. I need to listen to them. That's why you hire smart people, is not to tell them what to do, but to listen to what they say and build out what needs to happen. I really enjoy it. And a lot of the folks that we've had on board, we've had for a long time. We've known for almost, I'd say 6 to 10 years. So sometimes you greet them with a high five or a hug. It's almost like a family. And we try to have fun. We try to have fun every day. And after that, around noon, it's like everyone else, so you wind down from checking emails, responding to people, getting things on the calendar, looking at your to-do list, cross-reference checked off. And then you spend a lot of time doing research, a lot of R&D myself. I know you touched upon the AI stuff. So it's looking at what cyber capabilities exist or solutions. For me, a lot of it is providing evidence of what transpired. So a lot of that is logs and capturing that data, consolidating it, helping make sense of information. So I do a lot of research on that type of consolidation of information just to make our events maybe a little bit easier.
Cool. Do you know what, Vince? You just said then you spend a lot of time doing R&D, but I could tell, mate, because when we spoke last time, I was like, whoa. Like, honestly, because I'm nowhere near as technical as you, but for a recruiter, I am really technical for a recruiter, and I can talk to any candidate, like offensive, defensive, and I can really go toe to toe with it. But honestly, we were on that call and I was like, whoa, you've gone in deep on some stuff, and there's a lot of people can learn from you, because we ended up, I think we was only meant to hop on for 15 minutes, 30 minutes. We were chatting for ages. Can you remember that? It was good though. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I do have a habit of going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's cool.
Not always good, but I think you have to do what you really enjoy.
Yeah.
And I think at the heart of it, I was an engineer thrusted into a position of running a company. And the balance of that sometimes is hard because R&D is just a lot of fun, especially with using AI to help augment a little bit of that tasking or breaking things down, how to piece things together. The adoption rate, at least for me, was almost too easy. So I find myself in a host of trouble going and building, testing, and trying to prove and build something out, which I'm happy to discuss, but I'll throttle it.
Do you know what as well? I tell you what, I think as well, like from a business perspective, like you're leading the team, but like you just said, you're an engineer at heart. You said there you've got some of the offensive security engineers that have been with you 6 to 10 years. I bet they love the fact that you are the way you are, because that's not a typical businessman. Do you know what I mean? And I bet that gets a lot of retention, loyalty, respect. I bet you get a lot of mileage out of that in a really nice way.
Yeah, I think it definitely helps, especially in a planning phase or when you're having a meeting. A lot of times CEOs, and I've been there as well, where you have grand schemes of ideas and the developers or engineers will look at you and say that's not feasible within the time frame. I'm often in their shoes looking at, oh yeah, that would take a long time and there'd be a lot of false positives, or the integration period just isn't there. So maybe I'm a little bit closer to the ground truth of what's possible. So I think they probably do appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I think anytime you're long enough into a position, you become you become the bad guy.
I mean, do you know as well, like the offensive side, I only ever used to recruit pen testers. So I'm a little bit biased, but like the offensive side is just so cool. And it is hard to put down. Like you can start reading about hacking, and the term pen testing or hacking is such a broad term, can start going down different subsections of it and kind of niche within a niche. And it's just endless, isn't it? It really, I get the rabbit hole thing.
Yeah, you get down a rabbit hole, and especially with people that are new to the industry. Oh, I want to do cybersecurity. It's great. In what facet, what domain? Because you can't do it all. It's good to know a little bit about everything. Absolutely. But you really got to pick 1 or 2 domains and become knowledgeable in that. And like with everything else, right? You have to be able to be dynamic and grow into the next thing that's relevant to your career. But it's such a broad area, like you said, that you could pick anything, right? You could do web testing, RF spectrum analysis, code analysis, forensics, and that's just a few of the many domains.
Yeah, definitely. So Vince, you're back in the day then, you're doing some network admin stuff for tech systems on a contract basis, and then you've gone to Logo Technologies for 7 years, and then you've just woke up one morning and gone, do you know what? I'm going to do this. And what went down?
That was interesting. I was at a point where you automate yourself out of a job. I was doing sysadmin work, and then I was offered the opportunity to get a security clearance. And I said, okay. And then they said, we want to raise your security clearance and you're going to be a sysadmin, but for a classified environment. And I said, great, sure. I'll do it with the unclass work that I'm doing as well. And I remember my FSO, which is your facility security officer, a wonderful person. And she was telling me, that's fine, you can do both. But remember, if something on the classified network goes wrong, your name is associated to that. So you're on the hook. And you could get into a lot of trouble. So She said, you really got to take it seriously. And I think you need to completely transition to just doing this work. So I said, okay, I'll do that. And I did that for a couple of years, and I had automated a lot of the logging and testing and consolidation for making sure compliance work was done. Because honestly, it's quite boring, and it could be fun for some people. And respectfully, that was not for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
We did fairly well. We won a Cogswell Award that year, which is the top 1% given out. And I can't remember what year it was, but we were quite happy. And it was my first or maybe second year doing it. So I was kudos. I was super excited. And we were up against Leidos and some of the other big contracting companies. And that was great. I had found out that one of the contracts I was supporting was going to be shut down by my then company, Logos. And I had basically, they said, you can take over the contract, but you can't take it early. You're allowed to take it over after our contract is complete. And I said, absolutely, I'll do that. So it was in a moment where I had decided that, okay, I'll be happy to take over the contract once yours lapses. And at that point, I had already set up my own company name. I had registered. So I had everything ready to go. I just needed like a contract vehicle to work under. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I was also transitioned outside of being an employee of Logos and just being a consultant. I was simply working for them and supporting their efforts, which works. And I don't know if I would tell everyone to do that, but I think at some point, everyone should probably be their own entity, because you really can't trust that a company is always going to be there for your needs, and establishing yourself and having your own company is good just to have, I think. Just a sampler, see what it's like to be your own business owner, be registered, have an LLC or a corporation under your name. And it doesn't take much. It's a few $100 and you can set it up. And you can then always go back to your existing employer and say, hey, I want to come back to you as a consultant. So I had done that with Logos, and it worked well. I kept my hours and just kept working. And we took over this contract, and we had slowly started to grow it. Yeah. And during that time too, that transitional period, I forgot to say, is that I had worked as a consultant or as an employee to another company, and I got to see behind the scenes, because Logos was a fairly big company, but I worked for another small IT cybersecurity company, and it was directly on contract, and it was directly to one of the 3-letter agencies. So I was super happy. I was like, I made it. This is the greatest thing in the world. There was a couple of things that had happened that I can't go into, and I decided, okay, this isn't for me. And during that transitional period, I went back to the main office of the small company I'd worked for. And I said, hey, do we have anything else with this 3-letter agency? Love to continue working, but maybe in a different department. And when I went to the headquarters, it was like 12 people crammed in a very small office. And the person I spoke to, the owner, she knew nothing about IT. It was woman business owned, but her husband was on contract. So he was basically the conduit between how that contract survived. And it was just an interesting dynamic. But basically what it had told me was, to be a business owner, you don't really need to know that one domain. You probably need to know some of the other things, have a lawyer, have an accountant, have some of your other stuff organized really well, but mostly just to be organized. At that time, I was quite ignorant. And I said, if she's running an IT company and doesn't know anything about IT, then I could run an IT company. And I think to start, you really have to be completely ignorant, completely blind to how much work goes into it. So at that point, it's when I took it upon myself. I said, I'm going to get incorporated. I'm going to do it myself as well. She was not happy about that. She was quite upset. And she basically gave me an ultimatum. She said, take down your LinkedIn page, take down that. And I had said, the services that I'm offering are completely different than yours. And at that point, Blue Cloak was supposed to offer healthcare cybersecurity services to the healthcare industry. That's where Blue and Cloak had initially originated from. She had given me the ultimatum. I took everything down. I remember having a meeting with her, and she's like, how dare you do this? And I said, it's not conflicting with what you're doing. It's two completely different industries, I believe. And I told her, I was like, I think during our last meeting, I had mentioned maybe healthcare, something we could get into, and you didn't want to do it. She said, if you think it's so easy to start a business, then why don't you do it? And I said, sure, I'll try it. And looking back on it, I can see where she was coming from. It is a tough industry, but I think it could have been handled differently. And I think that type of not wanting to be an entrepreneur or not persuading someone to try it, I don't think that's good. And I
No.
think I've carried that over the whole duration that I've been the owner at Blue Cloak. Is anyone who's expressed any interest in being an entrepreneur, I've only pushed them to say, just try it. We had a intern here and she did really well. She came from outside the industry. I think she came over as a office manager and we had trained her up to do cyber. After maybe 2 years, she was running events. She was literally the host for running our offensive operational testing. And she did really well. She was personable. She was goal-oriented, highly intelligent. She could multitask like no one else. But it was a high pressure, high stakes environment. And at one point she said, I wanted to do my own business. And I said, absolutely. Get small woman business owned. We'll pay for your one day to go to a conference center to invite other women to get into technology. And we paid for one of her conferences and she had gone to do that. I think because of that initial interaction with that first company who was really upset that I was trying to start a company, then I said I would do it different. So I would approach it completely differently. I think the best thing we can do as business owners is you want to see the growth of your employee almost at the deficit of your own, because in the end, you want to look back and say, yeah, okay, you could look at two things like, oh, I had a company for 50 years. Great. And you amassed millions of dollars. Cool. But if you could also equally be as happy and say, yeah, I had a decent company. It didn't grow to 50 million. Maybe we did 2 or 3. But if you look at all the employees who you've helped catapult their careers and their happiness, I would take that any day.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have your ups and downs, but at least I can look back and say, man, look who I had at least a small nudge in the right direction to do something great with their lives. I know I'm saying I was the catalyst for everything that people have come through here. Everyone who's come through here has earned it on their own. They were self-motivated, driven, fantastic characters who were on the way trajectory to success. I was simply a part of that. And so we've had people come through here and move on to do bigger and better things. And we've only been happy for them. It's been a really good journey so far.
Yeah. I think as well, other people in the organization will see that and it will enhance the internal culture as well. Because you can tell just from listening to you talk there, you can tell straight away what you're like. And there's a real genuine wanting to help other people. And I think even if other people, because not everyone's going to want to go out and do stuff on their own, but if other people in the organization see you reacting like that, I think that'll have a positive effect on them and how they feel about working with you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's cyclical. Yeah. Being honest and being good communication.
Yeah. You mentioned as well, you was a bit ignorant at the time and that woman was saying you don't realize how hard it is and you probably didn't, but that's probably a good thing.
Oh, yeah, you have to be. You can't go in knowing everything. That's impossible. But being able to grow and learn from it is, I hate saying it's fake it till you make it. I don't know if it's faking it. You always need to be slightly uncomfortable because that's the only way you're going to grow, right? As a person, and especially in your professional career. If you're not slightly uncomfortable, I don't want to say you're wasting your time, but what are you getting out of it? And how are you going to help tomorrow? How are you going to help be useful in a week? I always felt like most CEOs are not, maybe not a lot, but I know there's a group of us, a large majority that feels like we really don't belong in this chair. We're just here temporarily. Frauds.
Having that uncomfortable feeling means that you're growing. It means that you're moving forward. I think as well, Vince, like at the start, especially now, like I've started my own agency like 8 months ago and like you announce it on LinkedIn and like the new position on LinkedIn thing comes up with a little sparkler thing that it does. And like you're getting like, oh yeah, go for it, mate. Nice one. So for the first few weeks, like you just absolutely buzz. You don't care what's happening. Like you're just buzzing. And then all those, go on, mate, all that kind of disappears. And it's, oh, okay, I've got to do this now.
Yeah, do it. Yeah.
So I think those periods, when everything's going your way, it's cool. But then I always say when everything's going your way, I think anyone could do that. When it's tough, I think that's what separates the people. Most people apart, because when it's going well, I do think it's not that difficult to do. But when things are going against you, like you thought you had certain deals or situations or contracts that you thought you definitely had and then you don't. That's when you've got to mentally be pretty strong.
You have to make a decision of, are we in the right space? Do we need to pivot? All these things come up, and you're right. Your character really shows during that bad period, like who you are in those tough periods. That's what really makes you.
Yeah.
It's interesting when we do our hiring process, it's always on paper, everyone has the certifications and everyone's great, super smart. But when you get to talk to them, that's where you get to see who the character is. Do you want to work with these people? When things get tough, do they have what it takes to get through it and not burn the building down? Can they bring their coworkers up and move past that problem?
Yeah.
And that's usually what helps us separate who we want to hire. So it's not uncommon for us to hire someone who is technically unqualified, but shows all those signs of a character who will grow and develop, who would bring everyone up because it's something that they want. That's what they want more than anything. And skills that you'll learn in 6 months. You're constantly learning. There's no stop. You never mastered anything. It's never complete. And character takes decades to develop. You don't learn it overnight. You might be able to fake it, but it'll show through. Like you said, when the times get tough, that character comes through.
Yeah, definitely. Now, the stuff you're doing, Vince, is really cool as well, like proper Lola. Because you made me smile when you were talking about compliance. Yeah, you made me smile because I was thinking, you were like, oh, I think some people will like it. And some people do like it, but that's just worlds apart from what you're like. You're doing the proper low-level hackers don't like compliance.
Yeah.
But you do get people that love it and are obsessed with it. But what you're into and the sort of work you're doing, and you like, that's just worlds apart.
Yeah, complete worlds apart. Yeah, no, I don't know. Let the machines do that. Let me know within a percentage of compliance is 80% or 90%, and then show me the deficit and then what things need to be fixed. I'd get excited about, but going through manual logs and checking things off by requirements, that's exhausting.
Before we get on to some research and some AI chat, you just mentioned, before we do that, you mentioned hiring there. So you're looking for key personality traits. Is there anything else that you're looking for that would be useful for the listeners to know? Any other things that you really look out for, mate?
Yeah, I think one quick example is a high level of interest in the field that they want to get into. That's going to be a predetermined prelude to success for them in whatever work they get into. And then the other thing is I usually ask is, in your spare time, what are you doing? What are you building? What are you making? What is an example of, a tangible example of your interests? And it's not wrong for them to not answer, not related to a hobby that they're doing that corresponds with their work, but it does help. I think it shows that you're well-rounded if you say like mountain climbing, base jumping, or whatever, something different. That's great. But if they're like, I got this Raspberry Pi project, or I'm creating this automated tool, or I was researching this GitHub project and I've made some changes, I've done some commits to it, I've branched and I made some, talk to the developers, I'm active in this community. That's the kind of stuff that also piques interest because it shows that you're taking, not that you're taking your work home, but you're not taking work home, you're taking a hobby to work kind of thing. You're having fun with it.
Yeah. So many people are like that. They finish work, they're just straight into the home lab.
I can't say that we're not all ebbs and flows. I think maybe in your 20s and 30s, you're like that. But then when you get older, you have kids. I can completely see, like myself, in probably my late 30s, that's when I had cut over. Work was work. And when I got home, it was home as much as possible. We had young kids at that time, and my attention needed to be elsewhere. It was home as much as possible. We had young kids at that time, and my attention needed to be elsewhere. But they're older now, and now I can geek out as much as I want.
Yeah, let's get on to the AI stuff. For everyone listening, I'm going to try and keep pace with Vince. You might have to tone it down for me a bit, mate, because I'm not as up to speed as you. But yeah, what do I need to know? What do the listeners need to know? Any kind of cool applications? Or what have you learned most impactful or most exciting, mate?
To be impactful to everyone, right? They need, whatever I say has to resonate with them deeply. So it's got to be generic initially. I think all of us go through emails, documentation, and we need to extract key facts, key important notes from it to either relay that information or organize it in a way that's going to be beneficial for us immediately or in that week. Sometimes I'll use Claude or Google AI Studios. I'll have a conversation with, here's this massive document. What are the key points? What do I need to know? If there was a dollar amount, who are the names? Just extracting that information so that you can then make better decisions. Okay, I need to respond by this time. This was the point of contact. This was the amount that they mentioned. This was the key points that they're looking for. And a lot of times I'll do that for like government contracts. Like an RFP gets released, they release like a 60-page document. Okay, what do I need to know from this? What are the key points? And that's important because all of us have only a finite amount of energy. No one's going to sit there and read 60 pages, 40 pages of information and come out of it with a fully charged battery. It's constantly just depleting and exhaustion starts setting in, and then your work performance drops. So, you have to look at the tools that are available that makes your life a little bit easier so that you can be as productive as possible. I don't know how long this grind culture is going to last or if it's still going, but I think it's still, at least for right now, very relevant. And a lot of the AI tools only enable that type of work. No one's saying, okay, you can 10x yourself. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't be. Now I expect the 10x. Like if you're coming to the table just as yourself, why wouldn't I just hire someone who can do that? Plus the 9 other things that they could do in the same time period. There are other tools like Google's released that turns documents into audio. So if you're more of an audio person, you can just download the PDF, convert it, turn it into a conversation piece, listen to it, and get your data that way. So sometimes I'll turn PDFs into podcasts and turn the podcast into a drive home, listening to that 60-page document into a 15-minute, really nice conversation piece between 2 AI agents and just listen to them digest and regurgitate what the core information was. If you're a coder, I really like Augment. I think they do a great job, and they recently supported ChatGPT 5, which still has mixed reviews. But if you're a coder, that in itself is a whole separate conversation, or I can dive into it. But yeah, so it's using VS Code, adding an extension called Augment. I think it's $30, or it might be more now. But you get like 500 messages, and a lot of my coding now, I'll have a conversation with a meta agent, and a meta agent is like your Anthropic, your Google, your ChatGPT. And I'll say, hey, I've got a crazy idea. Here's this GitHub project. Here's this GitHub project. My goal is to do this. Could I use one of these projects or these white papers to achieve my objective with this and this in mind? And then we'll have maybe a 20, 30-minute conversation. And I say, okay, I think you understand what I want. Could you put this all into an MD file, a markdown file, and let's do it in phases. So phase 1 is getting this complete all the way to maybe phase 10. And I'll take all that documentation and I'll throw it into a new VS Code project, Visual Studio application, and say, hey, Augment, read the first MD file. I want to implement it, and just let Augment just read and start developing. It's like, I think vibe coding has a bad ring to it. I think it's more like just having an organized method for creating something that you want, that you've already had a long conversation about. No different than you were to sit down with a bunch of developers in a conference room, look at an existing problem, potential solutions, consolidating, creating a master plan, and then trying to execute on that. I think you could do that now within a day and at least get through the equivalent of 5 to 6 weeks worth of work between 3 developers. You get that down to 1 person in 1 day. And it's not perfect, but it's not going to be like, oh, here it is, it's all said and done. But the dev cycle of getting there, it's heading in that direction. It's not absurd to say, oh, I created 10,000 lines of code in a day. It's okay, cool. How many of those lines of code actually work? Fair. But of the 10,000, let's say 10% of it works.
I bet it's pretty hard at the minute to track how hard a coder's working. Like, I just think it is.
Yeah, you're talking about like a human coder?
Yeah, because unless Even if you're a coder yourself, Vince, you tell me, but if they're doing stuff with AI, what's actually been done by them, what have they checked? It's gone out the window.
Yeah, the smart developers are using any kind of AI coding very carefully. So their adoption rate, at least from what I've seen in my small world, has been very slow, very incremental, very cautiously. I think it's almost like a trade, right? It's like you hone your trade and you become very good at it. And now you've got basically a child with a crayon who comes into a room and just starts painting the room and says, look, I'm done painting. So now you've made a mess of things. It's made such a mess. And that's how they see it. But to an untrained eye, you're like 4 of the 10 buttons work. So that's neat. So I think you fall into 2 camps. It's one who use it cautiously, sparingly. You see their progress. It's either measured in weeks or months, right? Because you use some type of tracking mechanism for tasks and projects and implementations to be done by a certain period. And they see if they hit those deadlines. And then people that are just coding through agents are committing thousands of lines of code a day and trying to get things working again. But because you break things along the way, and that comes down to better context, which I think people are learning. I think it's no different than your Google foo. If you were to Google something or you asked your grandmother to go Google something, the results would be so different, right? So different. You're like, you forgot this and this. No wonder you didn't find the red purse that you were looking for made by this. It's like you forgot a bunch of key things. So at least with coding through agents, if you use markdown files and you prompt it in a certain way, you can make leaps and bounds of changes quite fast, quite consistently, and not introduce problems that you had previously. I think I've been coding now for a straight year, and I've probably got at least a dozen applications that I use. But through each iteration, you learn. You're like, oh, there are some baseline items you always want to do. You want to make it transferable. You want to put in a Docker container. You want to make sure that your installation file is platform agnostic. You want to make things as easy as possible because it might work great on your machine, but it could break on the machine next to you. And it could be the same operating system. It just doesn't like it. So there's things you can do that you learn along the way to make your life a lot easier. And I think the trajectory is getting easier.
Yeah, you basically really still need to know what you're doing. But if you do and you're careful, you can create like hyper efficiencies essentially.
Yeah, I don't come from a coding background, and the best coding that not even was creating up batch files for automating scripting for compliance reports. That was my closest thing that I'd done. This was just YOLO and try to build an application, learn that it was broken, and then just every cycle taking what I've previously learned and apply to the next one. And what's cool is if you start thinking about these applications as libraries, entire libraries, and within the library, there are certain books that achieve objectives. Like, oh, this application has a really great search feature, or this application has a really great database. There's no reason why you can't pull that related data out and then reuse it in another application entirely. And then just getting the agent saying, hey, here's a markdown file. Here's a database that we use in another application. Let's integrate this methodology or approach into our new application. And the adoption rate and the use of tokens drops because it was already made and there's just a small integration window of token usage there. So being able to rehash from other applications into new applications just makes things go a lot faster and a lot easier, which we've done. That's been really useful for us. It's not unheard of to look at government requirements or say, okay, the government's looking for something that does this and this, and distill that from their documentation and say, what are the core things that they're looking for? Let's put together a concise plan, break it out into phases through MD files. Now let's look through our existing library and say which existing solutions can be plugged in. Now we've reduced the workload by maybe 30%, 40%. Now I only have to build out that 60. And you could hash together a decent solution, at least for proposal time, saying, hey, we've got a solution that hasn't been re-engineered. I think a lot of times, like, you spend a lot of cycles building an application and you're looking for someone to pay you back for that said solution. So you look at rehashing that existing application, reselling the same tool over and over again, when what they were looking for was something either entirely different or marginally like similar, just in a small degree. But why not look at exactly what they're looking for, build exactly that, just build the tool that they were really looking for, and at least get that out, not just a paper, but maybe a rough idea, a scoped out plan, saying, look, this will work great for a demo day, and we could show this to you guys if we win the contract, or at least demo. And you do that within a week. That's not impossible. It's completely possible.
Yeah, I think the whole thing about making things more clear and concise, because you know what a lot of these contracts are like, they're so wordy, and you can just distill back down to the main points. Even just in a general business setting, like I talk a lot about, if you're technically good and your communication is really clear and concise, you're probably going to be pretty successful in security. I can really help you get clear and concise, especially in a written format. I think that's really going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Through the right type of prompting. Okay, what is that they're really looking for? What was said over and over again, or what was made abundantly clear over some of the other requirements? So you can focus on that and really try to understand them. And now you don't have to spend weeks trying to do that, because realistically, you would send out a document, whoever the customer is, whether it's government or non-government, you bring it to a team, you'd sit in a conference room for hours, and then you'd rehash it over and over again. Okay, what are the requirements? What are they looking for? How do you interpret the data? How do I interpret the data? And that cost, no one's paying for that time. That's all company time. And someone has to pay for it. And it's not so much. Now that could be one person talking to maybe one agent, or you could give it to 2 or 3 agents. I've had it where I've had Anthropic, Google, and ChatGPT, the same document, and the distilled information I've shared amongst the 3 and say, okay, what are they missing here? How about you? Do you agree with what this person said and this person said? And then build one master document and say, okay, now I've got a general, like, it's my true north is maybe a little bit closer.
Yeah, cool. I like. Yeah, cool. Vince, it's exciting, man. I think the whole thing of being scared of it, because a lot of people were scared of it and trying to go a bit out. But I think most people are now realizing, like, it's exciting. It's
exciting if for anyone, the type of person who said, I've got an idea, right? That type of person will definitely jump onto it. But if you're apprehensive of where it's going and what it means, there's going to be a period where it's going to be a bit hurtful, because it's going to affect so many people. It's going to be hard. And I think there's been a couple of ex-Google employees who've talked about it on other podcasts and saying there's a dystopian future around the corner because of how it's going to displace a lot of people across a lot of fields, accounting, lawyers. I don't believe it, but Elon Musk was saying how his agent, his AI Grok is smarter than a doctor. I don't believe that, but affecting certain jobs, it's going to affect, I think, a broad industry. It's going to be interesting. And we're seeing, like, a lot of government, they're downsizing left and right. And what comes out of that, we don't know. But you just try to approach it carefully. Personalization with agents. I think maybe AI agents will be the equivalent of your cell phone. There was a time before your AI agent and a time after your AI agent. Everyone's got a cell phone, right? It's right in your pocket. It'd be same with an agent. It'd be the agent will say, hey, you want to check your email, check the calendar, respond to these people, common responses, and it'll take care of a lot of that for you. And you'll take care of some of the big decisions, like a big trip, right? Who's coming on the trip with you? And you'll maybe give a general response for that. But for the most part, I think there'll be an agent on your phone taking care of a lot of your work for you.
Cool, mate. I'm excited, mate. I think we're going to be all right, Vince. Yeah, definitely, mate. As we come to the end here, my friend, I used to ask what book has had the most positive impact on your career, but it can be book, it can be podcast, it can be content you consume, and it can be anything that's making you the best version of yourself or is helping your career growth that could help the listeners say, yeah, what content or book or pod's the best for you, mate?
So sometimes once in a while, I'll go back and read Stoicism, a book on Stoicism. I'll look back at that. Those were always good to read. Short passages, valuable information to share. Yeah.
Cool. Listen, mate, it's been nice chatting, and I know you're busy, so I appreciate you taking the time. It goes quick, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's been nice, mate. Yeah, mate. Thanks again, mate. It's been nice to see you again, buddy.
Good catching up.
Thanks, mate.